Well, thank you so much. For those of you who have decided to join us this evening for this program, and for those of you later who will be viewing it, you probably signed up or clicked on that link because the title kind of struck a chord with you, Overcoming Pandemic Paralysis. Brief introduction for myself. My name is Shannon Carter. I'm a family and consumer sciences educator in Fairfield County, and my counterpart, Jenny Lobb, is in Franklin County, where Westerville is, and she serves you as well, but kind of tagged me in for tonight's presentation. So in case you happen to be new to Extension, we are an outreach of Ohio State University. In fact, we're considered part of their statewide campus. We're located in every county in Ohio, and we bring the resources of OSU to life in the communities that we serve. For tonight's presentation, we will be looking at a couple different things related to pandemic paralysis. We're going to first of all kind of identify what that means, learn some tips for overcoming that, and then we always talk about SMART goals of how do we build momentum when we're trying to make changes. Well, I don't know what your experience has been throughout this pandemic, and it's really been quite personal, I think, for everybody. You know, it really depends on where you were when we had to kind of lock down for a time, how long you were locked down, what type of job you may have had or didn't have. You know, were you living alone? Do you have roommates or family members? And, you know, did you experience loss of life of someone that you love? So everyone's experience was very, very different. But in terms of tonight's topic, I know that there were many times this past year when I felt anxious and depressed almost at the same time. And there were times then that I felt almost immobilized by fear, lack of motivation. I felt like I couldn't get up off this couch, you know, if I had to. And that's hard for me to admit, you know, as an educator and teaching health and wellness, I shouldn't be feeling this way. And then we struggle with guilt, right? That's kind of the next thing as we think there's so many things I need to be doing or should be doing. Like for myself, I felt like I should be connecting with my family. They were kind of my teenagers dealing with their own struggles, should have been more engaged with my work teams. Well, I don't know if you've been there where there are things that you had to do, but you felt like you just couldn't move. And then kind of to make it worse, you look around maybe at some others and they're just doing all these great things or building something or getting fit or, you know, learning something new. And you think, wow, what's wrong with me? You know, why can't I do all of these things? Well, the uncertainty of everything we had to live with and things that we're still dealing with, it just can be exhausting, you know, dealing with that pandemic. And that kind of feeds that depression and anxiety. And for some, that can be almost paralyzing. Well, that phenomena has been termed pandemic paralysis in recent popular press and also by some psychologists. And that can leave us feeling defeated, deflated, depressed. So if you felt this way, you're not alone. I was right there with you. We kind of saw this, I saw this pandemic a lot as a storm, you know, and how much damage will this storm do? And more importantly for me, how do we get past this? How do we get to the other side? Well, Robert Frost says that the best way out is always through. So we are getting through this and we are coming out on the other side. And so we want to talk about then, how can we switch from that time of being like paralyzed on the couch to maybe feeling productive and worthwhile? Well, sometimes we just need to do something. And that's what we want to start off with talking about is those things that thankfully there are things that we can do. So again, when we're down or depressed, it's really easy to focus on all the things that we cannot do, especially when we were, you know, maybe stuck at home and weren't able to do a lot of those things, or you had a lot of events canceled for yourself or your family. Well, this is a very short list of some things that some of which might be within your own control. For example, your mind and body. You know, probably you're in charge mostly of what you eat, right? And what you drink. And so kind of what we take in, you know, probably could be in charge of how much you move as well. Getting enough sleep is important. And so all of those things that we know about self-care can be so important for our mental health as well. But also think about then your immediate environment. So whether that's at home, and it's your bedroom or your house, your home office, whatever, a closet, whatever that environment might be for you, is there anything you can do to make that less stressful for yourself? So for some people, that means getting rid of clutter. For others, it might mean making it pretty or filling it with something that brings you joy or brings you peace. Like I love scented candles, and I also love flowers or greenery, even if it's fake flowers or greenery. I just enjoy looking at that. We can also control to some extent the information that we take in. So this could be news, could be social media, TV, movies, videos. So if you're choosing to watch something, just maybe think about moderation when it comes to news and social media, making sure your information that you're getting is accurate, especially in regard to health protocol. We want to get good research-based information. And then when we are, watching something for entertainment, think about the movies or TV shows or even songs that make you feel good. We can control also to some extent how we prepare. So this might be, whether we're protecting, ourselves or our own family, or protecting others, but preparing in terms of any emergency, really. In the pandemic, sometimes we might have had to have a few weeks worth of food on hand. But initially, when I first offered this program, it was last winter. So we were still in that kind of ebb and flow of how things are going. And basically the idea is we really want to avoid overstocking and buying supplies that are in high demand when others might be needing them as well. So this is a model that depicts a growth journey during COVID. It could be during COVID or really any tough time in your life. But if you look at this, those three circles represent three different zones. There's the fear zone, the learning zone, and then the growth zone. So if you just kind of ask yourself, who do I want to be, or where do I want to be? Look at that and see maybe try to decide where you are now. And if I were looking at some of these, these three circles, I probably at different times would find myself in all three of those circles. But I would encourage you to look ahead at the next zone over and say, okay, well, what do I want to, where do I want to be, and what one or two behaviors could you maybe work toward? And if anyone wants to share, you're more than welcome to. I am always open to participant comments. So whether you want to put something in chat or just unmute, and you don't even have to share necessarily about yourself, but you could even share observations of others that you've seen in this. And I've had colleagues that have just done amazing things during this pandemic, and they've taught themselves or learned how to shoot and edit educational videos. And I'm still way behind on that because I was experiencing some of what I'm teaching you or sharing with you tonight. And that's kind of been my journey is, I wasn't always able to do all of these things, but I'm going to start where I'm at. And sometimes that's just being real with people and being open and honest about some of those things that have maybe been a little difficult. Well, one of the things that we talk about is shifting from worry and problem-focused thinking to solution-focused thinking. Any of you on this webinar, are you admittedly a worrier? I am. It's just my default setting. So I have to remind myself to kind of shift away from that, because we can get so focused on that problem. That's all we see. So even if you chip away at that, are there aspects of that problem that you can do something about? And then, finding out something that works well, do more of it if you find, something that motivates you. So there was, in my earlier comments, I shared about, some seasons of struggle for myself in this pandemic. And one evening, it was so bad. I felt like I was counting the minutes until my kids came home from youth group. I just felt like I couldn't move. And then my daughter texted me and said that they were staying for something extra. And I was like, oh, what am I going to, I just entertained myself with my husband was, crashed out, kind of taking a nap in the other room because he's a school teacher trying to do everything online and hybrid. So he was exhausted. And anyway, I had a long list of things that I should have been doing. And I just felt, it's one of those nights I just felt like I couldn't move. So I had to get up and use the bathroom. And then I was looking around the bathroom like, you know what, I could at least clean the bathroom. Let me do that. And that was something that if it had been on my to-do list, I would have been like, oh, I can't, I just don't have energy for that tonight. It's too much. But after I did it, it just felt so good to be able to say, I actually did something. So again, a positive way of kind of working through this, figure out what works and just do more of it. So after cleaning that bathroom, I just kind of got in the mood and went on to clean a little bit more. And then by the time my kids came home, I was a little bit more able to be a better mom and feel more engaged with what they were doing. So again, it naturally shifts our focus away from problems and moves toward useful solutions. And this was just something as simple as cleaning a bathroom, not rocket science, right? Another tip that I learned that I think is so helpful, whether we're in times of being stressed or just a normal day, is to use this term or tip called chunking your time. And this is a term that's used by mental health professionals to help people understand how to break their tasks into smaller, more doable segments. So it's kind of about creating just the right size chunk of a task to help you feel that sense of accomplishment. And that helps you then to feel not so overwhelmed, because feeling overwhelmed can absolutely snuff out any degree of motivation that you might have had. So this is kind of like that approach of one day at a time, or sometimes it's like 1 minute or 1 moment at a time. So the idea is that you break your day into 30-minute chunks. And so for 25 minutes, you're going to focus on a single task. Now, if you're at work, sometimes this is easier to do some days than others, and some jobs lend themselves a little bit more to this. Sometimes that job, if you're answering phones, you're constantly interrupted. But maybe there's a time before the phone starts to ring or where you can kind of be able to focus on a single task. And that in and of itself can be almost a form of mindfulness, just doing one thing. You know, how many times a day are we trying to do multiple things at once and multitask? And I am guilty of that. And I don't do them well when I start to multitask. So anyway, for 25 minutes, just focusing on one thing. And then you take a break for 5 minutes. Now, maybe that's getting up and taking a quick, walk around the house or the office. Maybe it's getting a drink of water, whatever it is, to kind of just take a break and reset. And then you repeat that process throughout the day. And then every hour, take a little bit longer than 5-minute break, kind of that idea. So what that does is several things, and why people find this so effective. For those who might be perfectionists, it helps you, it kind of forces you to move on. If you only give 25 minutes to that task, then you move on, and you don't have that tendency to get stuck in that and be perfectionistic. So it pushes us towards completing tasks rather than just endlessly working on them. So just an idea to maybe think about. There's actually a law that I think Parkinson's law got named for this, that says that your work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So if you have all morning to do that task that could have taken 25 minutes, for some of us, that's what we'll spend on it, is that whole morning. So it kind of discourages that perfectionism. And then by doing, again, that single task, it limits the amount of time that your brain is forced to focus. And they've done different studies to figure out, what is the magic length of time. And they found that 25-minute work periods have been scientifically proven to be the most effective for our focus. So it also, I mentioned perfectionism. Some of us are procrastinators, and this will help discourage procrastinating as well. And what I've found, so I am a list maker, even if I don't always accomplish everything on my list. So I make the lists, and I find that if I have a task that keeps moving from day to day, or sometimes week to week, and I've had this task on my list for several weeks, I look at it and I think, you know what, that's too big a task. I need to break it down. So that's chunking your time, is when you break that down, and then, kind of dividing your time likewise. If any of you have any other tips like along this topic with, kind of breaking things down that you've found really helpful. Another term that you might look up if you're intrigued by this idea is bullet journaling. And it's a very similar thing where you kind of plan your day or map out your day in bullet points. So, but feel free.
Shannon, I do have a tip. So
absolutely.
I have never used my smartwatch more than to do this during the pandemic, than to set reminders to essentially tell myself to stop. I'd even say, hey Siri, make a reminder to stop at 11 a.m. or things like that. Or, so if you have a smartwatch, if you have all the little gadgets, you can use them to help you do this. Because especially if you get busy and you will forget, well, you strap it to your body and then it reminds you. It certainly helps.
That is a fantastic tip. Thank you for sharing that. And, we're surrounded by technology, and Jenny Lobb actually does an entire presentation on technology and how it's so helpful, but sometimes we need to detox from that a little bit. But while we are surrounded by this, let's use it to our advantage and help us with some of those things. So thank you for sharing. Another thing that we probably need to do if we're getting overwhelmed with fear and anxiety is to deal with those negative emotions instead of ignoring them. Sometimes we tend to stuff them down and maybe think we'll get to those later, or we'd rather not deal with them, but then they tend to grow. It's kind of like a cloud hanging over your head. So sometimes what we need to do is we just need to experience the emotion. Just let yourself experience that, whether it's sadness or grief or anger or, whatever it is, just experiencing that. And it's more likely that it will pass than if you try and resist it. Because then you use emotional energy, just trying to fight that emotion. So one phrase that just keeps going through my mind in the last few months, and this can be with time or emotions, I guess, but it's, when it comes to doing a task that you don't want to do or doing something, it just keeps going over my mind. Just do the thing, just do the thing, and then you'll get past it. So it's kind of true with emotions, and you can't give those a timeline, but just allowing yourself to experience that. Now, if there are some things that you can't control, that you need to let go of, maybe that's something that you might want to identify. And if this is something that you really struggle with, just that need for control, which was very hard to do in the midst of a pandemic, a website called helpguide.org. So helpguide is all one word, .org, has a lot of practical tips. They have an emotional intelligence toolkit if you want to do a little self-reflection. And they even have a meditation on helping you through that. And always we recommend that folks call for help if needed. So thank you for putting in there. I should have typed it in myself. It's actually help with the PHELP, Help Guide. And that's a fantastic website, by the way, helpguide.org. So that's me not being very good at multitasking with the technology. I can read the chat, but not so good with the typing in there. So thank you. Perfect. So dealing with your emotions, sometimes what we need to do is finding our purpose. it can be so powerful if we can find a way to turn our hurts into healing for others. And sometimes it's with, the same thing that you've been hurt by can be what you find that purpose in. Sometimes it's a passion you have, but anything you can think of to impact your immediate environment enough to make like this small motivating change, just like the things that you're trying to do in your own life, in your own home, that's powerful, and that power of finding purpose. So, what if that's something that we decided to do is so much greater than just cleaning a bathroom? What if we decide to help someone beyond our own family, reaching out to those in need? How much more would that help you to feel empowered? And I've read numerous stories of people that were suffering with depression, and it didn't have to do with pandemic, but how they really turned that around, and it gave them a reason to get off the couch. They had people that they needed to help. So sometimes our purpose grows out of our own suffering, and sometimes out of others. One journey of suffering we've had in our family, my daughter had celiac disease, and she still has it. But she was so sick from that it really, she was sick for a couple of years. And so that helped her to raise awareness of that disease with others and share her story in hopes that might help others to feel more normal. And again, countless examples of that, of how that can help. So research has also shown what we've probably known and felt all along when we've experienced this, is that there are certain emotions and behaviors that we can do that promote our own health and well-being. And those are things like gratitude, fostering a sense of gratitude, just being thankful, just switching your focus, like we talked about earlier, off of the problem and onto a solution, or, instead of looking at what you can't do or don't have, looking at what you do have. And just that gratitude, some people keep a gratitude journal, and thinking of three things a day they might jot down that they're thankful for that day. So, and it could be something as simple as I got out of bed on time, or I saw a new flower bloom, or, I helped a friend at work. So anything you can think of just to be grateful. And then sometimes people find their purpose by listening to other people and what they appreciate back about them. And that's kind of like that self-reflection time, just thinking about what you're good at. Maybe it's, my husband is such a helper. He loves, like, if someone calls him, I won't give out his number, but if someone calls him and they are like, we had a call recently, or he saw on Facebook, a veteran that needed an air conditioner because it was really hot. We had an extra one in our garage, so he took it over, helped install it. He loves to help people like that. It just makes him feel so good. And so anything like that. And an attitude of gratitude was shared in the chat box. Thank you. It's very true. And all of this can help us find and build community. And that's, as we know, is so important, especially from a year where we felt so isolated. And sometimes that finding a place to volunteer, in your own community, that can be part of your healing, and then also give you an opportunity to share your story and kind of your own journey through that. If anyone else has any thoughts or tips on finding purpose that they want to share, please feel free to. I'm going to summarize and then go through a couple of resources that I would like to share as well. So again, in working through some of our pandemic paralysis, we want to start with what we can do, focus on solutions, chunk your time or chunk your task, deal with emotions, and find purpose. And again, if you are currently in a state of feeling overwhelmed, don't try to do all these. These are tips that hopefully I was hoping folks could find one or two things that might be helpful. So please don't look at this as a list of things that you need to accomplish. But using some of these can help build some momentum for change. And as promised, I mentioned that we would talk about setting a goal. What's one thing that you might try this week? And we talk about goals being SMART goals. And the SMART is an acronym that stands for, the S stands for specific, setting goals that you can clearly name. Then that's followed by being measurable. How do you know when you're going to achieve your goal? You can check that off. And then attainable or achievable. So it's within reach, relevant, and making sure that it fits your needs, fits your family's needs. And then time bound, you put a deadline or a target date on that. Again, you may have to adjust that deadline, but at least that is a place to start from. And again, research has found that if you write it down, you're more likely to do it. So if you even have a scrap of paper or a notepad on your phone and want to jot down just one thing that you would want to try this week, I just want to encourage you that you are made to overcome. And to overcome means to defeat something, to successfully deal with or gain control of something difficult, to affect someone very strongly. And so I'm confident that we can all overcome our own paralysis from this pandemic and move forward in health. And I hope that you can, again, find a tip to help take care of yourself, to live healthy and well. And of these resources, the ones I wanted to point out, you'll see the helpguide.org that was shared in the chat. And then OSU Extension also has a couple blogs that are wonderful. If you want to look them up, and you can subscribe to them in your email, look us up on Facebook. Thank you. Those are being shared in chat. livesmartohio.osu.edu. And in that, there are 4 different blogs. One of them is a mind and body blog. And then livehealthyosu.com is our Live Healthy, Live Well series and information. So lots of health and wellness information. If you have specific questions about today's program, you can reach me at carter.413@osu.edu, and I'm happy to answer emails.
I do have another technology question. So do you have any apps or app recommendations that you found to be helpful to help you organize anything health, mental, anything like that?
There are some wonderful apps. I believe the one I mentioned with the bullet journal, I think that I don't have one of those on my phone. And every, let's see, what do I have? I have an LG phone. It's an Android, but I like the Google products, and I have one. I use Google Tasks because you can laugh at me, but it's okay. I can't watch you laughing. I used to be a list maker, on paper, and I loved checking off the task. That gives me a sense of gratitude, like I accomplished something, I can check it off. But this task, Google Tasks, has a little like starburst when you click it. That means it's checked, and then it disappears into your resolved list. So I like Google Tasks. I also like Google Keep Notes. I put I start a grocery list on there, and I can share it with my family, and they can add to the, so they don't say, hey mom, I'm always like, add it to the list. I also have tried a few different mindfulness apps. I used to like the free version of Calm, and that one is very minimal, I think, on what's offered free. Headspace is wonderful. There's a certain amount that's free, and then they have excellent meditations, mindful meditations to practice. And there's another one, I believe it's called Conscious, that we're kind of getting into mindfulness a little bit. That's one of my other topics, and I love talking about that. That Conscious sometimes just gives you something different to notice or focus. So it might say, today, when you enter a room, look up. I mean, how many times do we just look at the ceiling and you might just notice something different? Another day, it might be notice the water around you. So you might just, in different environments, notice that. So someone shared white noise machines for sleep can help that to keep distractions out and just help you get a better night's sleep. Absolutely.
Are you familiar with any state or local agencies that you can speak to for free if you're still having issues? Maybe not like mental or health, but if it's just anxiety. Any resources out there?
I'm off the top of my head, I'm not quite as certain about the Westerville area, but there should be, like, as far as like mental health network, our Adam board is what I'm thinking, and they have a whole list of resources. Family and Children First Council usually has a pretty good list. Am I getting close to what you're talking about, or is it the idea that if you just need to talk with someone, or
Any and all of it.
okay? Yeah, if you're sending out information afterwards, I can look up some more things for you to include in the email that will go out to folks.
Thank you. Yeah, because I know a lot of the stress comes from it's little things that build up, whether it's finances or mental health, and all of it. Like one thing may not be the breaking point, but when you put them all together, yeah.
Yep, that's a great point. So happy to have you all joining us tonight, and reach out if you have additional questions.
Thank you, Shannon, so much. These are great, just reminders. And honestly, I think this entire thing is mindfulness, because it's like, slow down, take time, all of that is very helpful. And some things, even if it's common sense, just need to be said out loud.
Yep, we all need those reminders, myself included. So thanks, everybody.
All right, I am putting, and you said Adam Board, BOARD.
Yep, it's ADAMH. The FH on the end is for mental health, so I can look for that.
Yeah. If somebody wants to see some of the other things that you've done, do you have them available? Does OSU have these as things that people want?
We do. I have my website closed, but there is, I believe the website is Mindful Wellness. I'll just type it in, .osu.edu. And I have a team of colleagues across Ohio State that we collaborate together. And this gets just to be able to view some more information on mindfulness. And then if that's something that the library is interested in, maybe hosting a couple classes or a series on, we'd be happy to do that.
Oh, yeah. Do you guys have a YouTube channel?
We do. It's not all inclusive, and there's so much that we do that you probably wouldn't want to subscribe to everything. It's like food preservation. We have a food preservation channel. We have my agricultural natural resources colleagues have lots of publications that they put up, but we don't necessarily have one specific to mind and body.
Okay, but it's nice to know that the playlist is there. As this probably happened to everybody. You see, imagine somebody coming across this class tomorrow and they really, really needed it. And that is where YouTube shines. So that is good. All right, well, that looks like it is it for the chat. And Shannon, once again, thank you very much. Very good job. All right.
Thank you.
All right, and Shannon, what I'll also do is when I download the recording to this, you will also get an original copy to do with what you will.
Okay, great.
All right. Okay, everybody then, good night. Have a good evening and take care of yourself.